What's going on, True Blazer fans? It's Tori, and I'm here with a Game 2 recap. It's out a little bit later than I wanted to get it out, so let's just treat this as something to go over before Game 3 and to get you hyped for the chance that the Blazers now have to try and go up 3-0 on the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm not going to waste any of your guys' time. Let's just jump straight into this. The game starts off with the Thunder looking for Steven Adams on the interior, and this is something that makes sense. Adams scored the first 2 buckets of the game and was working Enes Kanter inside. For some reason, Oklahoma City tended to drift away from this as the half went on. Al-Farouq Aminu has not shot it well during the series, so it was nice to see him start off the game with the 3 for Portland. It was his only 3 of the game, but we haven't needed to rely on him like we have in years past. Portland was getting downhill into the lane all game long, and it started off with this sweet scoop layup from McCollum. A lot of plays, Dame was just dribbling down and splitting defenders like he did here. That was a really nice nifty finish to get around the defender, and then Damian does it once again. He gets the and one on this play, finishes once more. This play let me know that Paul George had more confidence going into this game. This is the type of shot we always see him hit on us, and it was a really nice step back swish. And then he attacks the rim, and this got me worrying that it was going to be one of those Paul George games. Again, OKC was working Adams inside against Kanter, and Kanter really didn't stand a chance. His defense was not as good in this game as it was in the last game, and OKC posting up Russ, who ends up finishing on the reverse side. OKC was really pounding the rock inside, and they were up 20-13. But CJ McCollum slashing all game long, getting to that floater like he did in game 1. Like I said, with the way they're playing defense, that floater is going to be there for McCollum. And then I really like this play. CJ splitting the defense, getting into the paint, kicking out to Rodney Hood, who then dribble drives himself and kicks back out to CJ, who relocates for a wide open 3. That was a great play, way to attack the paint, and way to move the ball. So Portland was able to get back into this game and actually take the lead with this really nice CJ McCollum crossover on Paul George with the one-handed finish. Now keep an eye on Zach Collins in this play. Watch how he closes the ground and pins Westbrook against the backboard. That was a huge block. Sadly, OKC got the offensive rebound and scored right after that. And then this pass is much harder than it looks with the offhand off the dribble. That was really impressive. Props to Zach for sticking with it and finishing it inside. Dame wasn't able to split the pick and roll like he has been this series on this play, and Dennis Schroeder picks his pocket. They get a fast break run out. That was a really good drop back pass by Schroeder, and OKC had the momentum. If not for Zach Collins hitting shots like this at the end of the first quarter, Portland would have been down double digits heading into the second. And here, really good defense by Dame to poke the ball free. Thunder gets it back, and they end up scoring on a Schroeder mid-range, which is pretty much the only shot he's been hitting in this series. And then Rodney Hood struggled from 3 in this game, got a lot of open looks that didn't fall, but he did hit a couple of mid-range buckets. This is one of them, getting to a spot against Noel and finishing. But offensive rebounding was a problem in the first half once again for Portland, as the Thunder end up getting second chance points here. Portland struggled in game 1 to rebound the ball, and in the first half of game 2, they were struggling on the defensive boards as well. Now look at this play. I really like this play because it uses Oklahoma City's defense against them. Curry comes up to set a screen, and his defender and Paul George, marked with the X, sags behind him to contain the ball handler coming off of that screen. This leaves Curry open to flare out, which is represented by the dotted line, and Nerlens Noel, who's guarding Zach Collins, sees this and sees that Curry is wide open, knowing he's a lethal 3-point shooter, and starts cheating the pass and playing up. But what this does is it leaves Zach Collins open to roll towards the rim, and CJ sees this and delivers the pass. Zach Collins does a really good job taking his time and finishing inside, and as I said, he had a very solid first half. And then overall, this is good defense, but that is Paul George, and that is what he does. That was a very tough finish. Good job by Zach to go straight up, make it tough without fouling. Now here's a defensive possession I really didn't like. OKC runs a lot of staggered screens, especially for Paul George. Rodney Hood was being guarded by Paul George, and he ended up trailing the play, which was a mistake. What Rodney Hood needs to do instead is to trail Paul George through the first screen, but then split the screeners and go under the second screen. That'll take away this passing lane, and it'll make Paul George fade out to the 3-point line, and it will essentially neutralize the staggered screen. But Hood ends up trailing, and Paul George gets an easy bucket on the interior. Dame had those first 2 drives early, but had been kind of quiet up until this point, and Portland's down 9. They need a bucket, and he hits an insanely tough fadeaway shot. That's just pure talent and difficult shot making by Dame. But then this is the Paul George that we're used to, who killed our team during the regular season. The isolation step back and the sweet stroke for 3. With the way Paul George got going early, it had me worried. But as you can tell from this, his shoulder is not 100%. That tough contested 3 really got Dame going. Here, he drives through the Oklahoma City defense for a lane, and then he flies off this handoff handoff from Aminu, gets fouled on the move and drains the three. That was an insanely tough shot, and that got Portland right back in it, only down 4 with 4 minutes left in the second quarter. Now this was a really good play as watch as CJ stays in front of Westbrook and then hands him back off to Dame, who hounds him, makes him fall, and then there's a fight for the ball. There's a little bit of a scrum and Westbrook flops. There's nothing to that, a little bit of playoff action. Westbrook was throwing an elbow and an arm out at Dame, and then he flopped when he barely got shoved. That is classic Russell Westbrook. I really like posting up Mo. He had a good game with 14 points, a lot of finishes on the interior like this one. Here Dame plays more good defense, dislodging the ball from Westbrook, who ends up fouling Cantor. Hopefully his hand is okay going into game 3. I think it is. And then Oklahoma's pick and roll defense really is not working at all. Look at all this space that's given up because Steven Adams is way out past the 3-point line trying to contain Dame off the screen. Dame sees this and instead rejects the screen and makes use of that huge driving lane he has. Now look at this. Everybody's focused on Dame driving. Maurice Harkless is open in the corner and Paul George sees that, so he ends up trying to get the steal and take away this pass. But Dame adjusts in mid-air and is able to somehow kick it out to McCollum for a wide open 3 to tie the game going into halftime. Again, starting off the second half, Steven Adams inside. For whatever reason, at the start of halves, they really feed him and it works, and then they go away from it. Here, Dame, driving the lane once again, drops it off to Cantor, a very good finish inside. And then Portland's defense reached another level in the third quarter, especially Damian Lillard. Here he pokes the ball away from Russ and then dives on the floor. There will be more defense from Dame later. And then this quarter started off good because CJ McCollum was getting to his spots, getting to his mid-range shots that he loves, and he was knocking them down. And then here's a stretch of more really good defense. Al-Farouq Aminu steals the ball from Paul George, Dame leaks out and ends up getting a layup. Very next possession, Maurice Harkless ends up picking Paul George's pocket as well, and he ends up with a very nice finish down on the other end. And all of a sudden, Portland has seized all the momentum that OKC built early on. Very next play, another deflection. Mo gets a hand on this pass, but it goes right to Steven Adams, who tips it to Terrence Ferguson, who hits a 3. But overall, very good defense, causing deflections. And then when Portland's attacking early in the shot clock, good things just seem to happen. CJ loses the ball here, but it turns into Paul George gambling, and CJ uses that against him and finishes with the floater. Now, I know a lot of fans have seen this clip, but if you haven't, I love this from Dame. Here he strips Russ as he goes for the mid-range fadeaway, and then Russ gets the ball back, and Dame dares him to shoot it because Russ can't shoot. And then Dame gets hyped, claps towards the bench, flexes a little bit, and then guess what he does? Of course, he's Damian Lillard. He pops the 30-foot bomb. Those couple of plays by Damian Lillard was the turning point in this game. Because as you'll see, after that, Portland started hitting everything. CJ McCollum with a good drive and kick out to Maurice Harkless, who ends up hitting a 3. And then Portland's defense was at a level that I haven't seen it all season. Dame plays really good defense. That's just a really good move. And then Myers Leonard blocks the shot, and that was a clean block, but it was called a goaltend. That was the best blocked shot I've seen in Myers' career. That just shows everybody was picking it up on defense. And as I said, Portland was hitting everything. Sweet step back from CJ, and Portland is suddenly feeling itself on offense. Russ made one of his 5 shots for the entire game, but it wasn't good enough. Portland was just too hot. And you know the Blazers are hot when Al-Farouq Aminu is hitting shots like this. He's not a mid-range shooter, and he's fading away contested at the shot clock buzzer, and he still hits it. Rodney Hood, second pull-up jumper where he gets to the top of the key, and all of a sudden Portland is up 8. This was really bad transition defense, a little bit of miscommunication. Myers Leonard didn't get back into the paint, but overall our defense was stellar in the third. OKC's was not, because you cannot give Seth Curry wide open 3-point shots. There he splashes 1, and then here is a modern NBA fast break. Dame with more great defense, picks Schroeder's pocket, and then passes it across the court for another Curry 3, and all of a sudden Portland is rolling and up 12, and the stadium is alive and rocking. And then Damian Lillard basically ends Raymond Felton's career with this crossover and step back. That wasn't bad defense from Felton, but he's Raymond Felton. That wasn't good enough. And Damian Lillard is a superstar and finally making superstar plays in the playoffs. Now pay attention to Collins, and watch how he sprints up to set the screen, but not only that, he doesn't let the defense know which side he's setting it on until he's there. This confuses Markieff Morris, who accidentally plays the wrong side of the screen. This leaves a wide open lane for CJ McCollum to drive, and he ends up taking advantage. Props to Stotts for preparing the team to run high pick and roll against a defense that likes to trap and that we've struggled against in the past. Little things like that make a difference. And then CJ McCollum absolutely went off in the third quarter, getting to his mid-range jump shot. That was just a great move and a great shot. And then here he is, easily getting by Paul George, who ends up fouling him. They don't call it, but the ball goes right to Myers Leonard, who has some contributions in the late third and fourth quarter as well. And then more Seth Curry. Portland is running away with this game. And when CJ is hitting those types of shots, there's really nothing a defense can do. And then even when he misses, Maurice Harkless is right there for the putback. And then the Thunder were supposed to be the team causing turnovers and running the break, but in game 2, it was Portland. Dame caps off the night with that layup right there, and with that being said, Portland is up 2-0 against a team that many people thought would cruise to a series win in 5 or 6 games. Portland, with all the adversity, with the injuries late in the season, with Nurkic going down and not being here for the postseason, is looking very good headed into game 3. With San Antonio up 2-1 against the Denver Nuggets, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but Portland has a road to the conference finals. Now they just got to take advantage in game 3, and I think the Thunder will try and figure out different things to do. They have to adjust after that debacle in Portland. I do expect Paul George to take the assignment on Damian Lillard in game 3 because Damian Lillard has absolutely crushed Russell Westbrook so far in this series. I do expect OKC to switch up its pick and roll defense because Portland is killing them on pick and rolls. Steven Adams' feet are not quick enough to be able to get all the way out in order to trap Dame, especially with how fast Portland has been setting some of these pick and rolls. With Adams still running out to try and trap, Portland is driving right by him. A lot of times Adams just doesn't even try, he ends up sagging a little bit, but he's still up too far, and Portland's guards are still able to drive past him and get to the rim, or drive past him, collapse the defense, and be able to kick out to open shooters. OKC is definitely going to try to change something up there because that has been their Achilles heel so far in these first 2 games. Offensively, Portland has to try and anticipate some of the defensive changes that the Thunder might make, and they need to have a plan in place for a multitude of different defensive schemes that they may see. What I'm afraid of in game 3 is that the Thunder will switch up their defense, Portland won't know what to do, and it will result in a stagnant half-court offense where Portland isn't getting good shots, and then they try and force things, and it turns into turnovers, and OKC is able to run the break and get easy buckets, get their crowd into the game, get some momentum, and then churn up a double-digit lead. I definitely am worried about that happening, and Portland needs to be ready, because if Portland wins game 3, history is on their side. Defensively, Portland might need to double down on Steven Adams if they try and use him a little bit more. Leave one of their bad shooters. Leave Russell Westbrook. Have Dame dig down into the paint and try and get a steal and strip Steven Adams. The Thunder have shot terribly, and they don't have good shooters, so if Steven Adams gets the ball in a deep position against Enes Kanter, we need to be collapsing the defense. I saw a couple of plays in game 2 where Steven Adams ignored a wide open shooter and ended up trying to get a contested shot off inside. So who knows if he'd even kick it out? Who knows if he'd even make us pay? So I think the whole second half of game 2 on offense looked a lot like our start in game 1 when we got up by 19. However, I think game 3 is going to be a totally different ball game schematically, so I'm really interested to see what happens. I'll take a big interest in breaking down that film for you guys, and I will point out any differences that I see and what the results of those differences are. So with that being said, that wraps up my game 2 recap. I hope you True Blazer fans enjoyed. Hopefully you have a good Friday, and hopefully Portland is able to go up 3-0 against the team that so many fans were scared of. So that's all. I'll see you later. This has been Tori. Peace out. Go Blazers.